My daughter didn't cry. She just blinked at the floor, lower lip trembling, one red handprint smeared across her cheek. She looked small, too small for a room that loud. I'd turned just in time to see the echo of the slap fade from the air. My mother-in-law's face was hard, my sister-in-law clapping, and my wife, she was the quietest, just leaned back in her chair, crossed her legs, and said, "Serves you right." The room didn't fall silent, it carried on, laughter, forks, glasses clinking, 55 people, and not one voice in her defense, except mine. But I didn't say anything, not yet. That night, after the dishes were cleared and the guests stumbled home, I made 3 calls. One to a lab, one to a man I hadn't spoken to in 6 years, and one to a lawyer who owed me a favor from a darker time in my life. They thought the slap was the end of it. They were wrong. It was the start of something I'd buried years ago. We don't talk about betrayal when it comes from laughter. But that's what haunted me. Not the slap, not even the applause. The smirk on my wife's face. The way she looked at our daughter, no, my daughter, as if she were something less, unwanted, inconvenient. It wasn't the first time. I thought I was imagining it, until the night I caught her whispering to her sister in the kitchen. "She's just like him," she said, bitter, too quiet, too soft, like dead weight. I didn't walk in, didn't interrupt. I just stood there, behind the wall, frozen, dead weight. They were talking about a child, my child, and yet the tone wasn't frustration, it was contempt. Contempt mixed with something older, buried, resentment. It made me wonder, who exactly did she think my daughter belonged to? I moved carefully. I took strands of hair from my daughter's brush and another from my wife's, sent them both in for analysis. The second call I made that night, it was to the man she used to date, the one she swore meant nothing, the one she accidentally ran into 6 months before our daughter was born. He answered with silence. When I asked if he'd ever wondered, he hesitated. "Don't do this," he said, but his voice cracked. He already knew, or feared he did. I tracked calls, old texts. I went years back, burning hours into nights, piecing together a timeline she thought she'd buried. The affair was there, hidden in codes, disguised as errands, sudden plans, new hobbies. She was good at lying, but not as good as me at watching. Still, I said nothing. We ate dinner. We went to functions. She smiled in front of friends, and I smiled too, even as the truth grew sharper in my hand. The results arrived in an unmarked envelope. I opened them alone, read them 3 times. The girl I raised was mine, biologically, entirely. But my wife? She wasn't her mother. That night, I pulled out the hospital photos, looked closer. The band on the baby's wrist, the nurse in the background, the timing. Our daughter had been switched, not by mistake, by choice. She'd miscarried, that was the truth. And when her sister went into labor the same night, they made a decision. Mine was healthy, hers was not, so they took mine and gave the other one away, to the system, to strangers, to fate. It wasn't a mother's grief, it was theft. And for 8 years, they wore that lie like a second skin, until one slap pulled the thread loose. I waited for the right moment, another family gathering, everyone dressed up, everyone pretending. I stood behind the same table where my daughter was slapped, held the same glass I never drank from. My wife was mid-laugh when I placed the folder down. "What's this?" she asked. "Truth," I said. She opened it. Her eyes barely moved. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. Then, "I don't understand." But I wasn't looking at her. I was looking at my sister-in-law, the one who clapped. She'd gone pale, her hands shook. She whispered, "You said we were safe." My wife turned to her, lips parting, confused, betrayed, cornered. And me? I simply stepped back. "Pack your things," I said to my daughter, who stood quietly in the hallway. She didn't ask why, she just nodded. And I walked out with her, left them with their silence, and a folder of names that weren't theirs. We don't talk about betrayal when it's wrapped in smiles, when it raises your child, when it sleeps beside you for years. But I will, one day when she's older. For now, I just watch her sleep, safe, unbroken. They took what they thought would stay hidden, but the past doesn't bury well, especially when it cries in your voice, looks through your eyes. They made one mistake. They slapped a child who was never theirs. And now, they'll spend the rest of their lives choking on the truth. I didn't raise someone else's daughter, I rescued mine, and I made sure they'd never touch her again.